In this lesson, let's go ahead and create the single blog post page. The first thing we're going to do is go into our theme folder, and you can see we have blog, and then we have post 1 and post 2. We are going to be using post 1. Now, as you can see, we can actually go ahead and use a layout file because we have the head right there, which is going to be exactly the same. We have the nav bar, and the rest of the body might be different, but let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing we want to do is go to our routes file and register a route for the blog page or the single post page. So we're going to have a route get, and this is going to be slash posts, then slash the post right here which we're trying to view, and this is just going to go to blog slash post controller, and this is just going to go to post controller, but we're going to put it in a block namespace. Let me show you. I'm just going to make a controller, add make controller blog slash post controller, like that. Okay, and then right here I'm going to actually pass an array to this function, and this is going to be post controller, and this is going to actually come from the blog namespace. So you can see right there is auto imported for me, and then I can say post controller class, and this should be the single post method, or let me just call it the show method. Okay, and this is another way for providing controller and the method that is supposed to handle this route. And the reason I use this most of the time is because I can click and go into the controller class. That was the whole point for creating it. Awesome. So here I'm going to create a show method, and in this show method I'm going to return view, and this view is going to be blog.show. So let's go ahead and create the blog folder, views. Here I'm going to have blog, and in here I'm going to have a show.blade.php. Then, since we have some similarities between our welcome.blade.php and our show.blade.php, I'm going to create a new layout file that I'm going to call blog.blade.php. Then in this blog.blade.php, let me just duplicate everything in my welcome and place it right here. Then let's just start removing out the duplicates. So here, since we have this static title, I'm going to make the title a section. So I'm just going to say yield title, so that the user can provide the title they want for whatever page. Then the nav bar is pretty much going to be the same, so we're going to leave the nav bar here. Then the header is going to be a little different on the post page, so the header is not going to be part of the layout. We can yield a header section, that's if we want, so we can say yield header, and then the main content, I'm just going to say yield content. And then the footer is going to be the same on all pages, so I'm just going to leave it at that. So this is a pretty much good layout file. Then the next step is I'll come to the welcome.blade.php, and then I'm going to break this down. So right here, the first thing I'm going to do is extend that layout that we just created. So extends layouts.blog. Okay, then I'm going to define the first section, which is title, and section, and this is going to be SaaS blog. That's the title of this page. And then the next section is the header section and section, and I'm just going to scroll down and copy the header. So this is the nav bar, and then this is the header. So I'm going to cut this header and place it in the header section, like that. Just going to organize this, the indentation a little bit, and I think that's good. Next, I'm just going to scroll down to where we have the main content, which is here, and I'll cut this out and I'll place it in a main content section. So I'm just going to come here, create a new section called content and section, and I'll paste it right here. Fix that little indentation. Now that we are done with that, we can delete everything else. So I'm just going to scroll down, delete everything else. Now, if we check out our welcome page, it should be exactly as it was, and it is. Awesome, which means we didn't break anything. Now that we have the layouts file, we can go ahead and actually extend this right here. So we're extending layouts.blog, and we're just going to define a section called title and section. And this title was most likely supposed to be the post title, right? So let's just say post title, which is the specific post that the user is viewing. Then we're just going to define a section called header and section. And in the post one, so theme blog post one.html, we'll copy the header. So this is the header section right here. I'll copy it and place it right here. Don't worry, we're gonna format that in a second. Okay, we just want to get things up and running. I'm just gonna fix the indentation right there, and then we'll define the section for the content. And I'll just go back to this blog post and copy the main content, which is this, and I'll paste it right there. Okay, fix the indentation like that. Let's go ahead and in the post controller, since we have a dynamic route, we can use route model by name to find the post and then return it with this view. So with post, and we'll pass in post right here. So we'll go to our welcome.blade.php, and then right here where we have a list of blog posts in our for each loop, look at that right there, we are going to modify the href so that it actually points to that page. So let's use a route. So we need to come to our web.php and give this route a name, and I'm just going to say name, and I'm just going to say blog.show. Okay, so for the welcome, I'm just going to say blog.show, and I'll pass in the post ID so that we can identify what specific post we are viewing. And that's it. So now if we come to our app, refresh, blog.show not defined, it says route blog.show not defined. Let's actually check out the web.php. The name is blog.show, and in the welcome.blade.php we have blog.show. Let's check out our route list. Add route list. It looks like that route is not registered. Let's check out our web.php. And the reason why that's not registered is because here we are registering exactly the same path as registered in our resource right here, which means there's a conflict, which means once we register this route, it's registered again right here and it overwrites what we did. So what we want to do is have a path that is unique. So maybe /blog, then post, then post. And if we run @route list again and check this out, you can see we have our route there and blog.show is a valid name. Okay, so you want to be very conscious when creating your route so that you don't overwrite routes. If I refresh this now, if I click on this one, it still looks like the posts are not linking to anything correct. Okay, so I think that's the mistake. We actually linked the category, so that's not right. Let's go to the welcome.blade, and this is not supposed to be the one we're linking. We're supposed to link the post itself. So we're supposed to be changing this and also the title right there. Awesome. So if we refresh this, great, the title and the image both link to the single file. So if I click on this, you can see right here we have a single page for the content, even though this is static at the moment. So let's go ahead and fix this. First, we have the background image issue, right? So in our show.blade.php, the background URL is loaded right here. What we can do is simply embed the image of the blog post. So we'd say post image, but let's use our asset function. So we'd say asset, then post image. Okay, and if we refresh, you can see we have the beautiful post image right here. And instead of saying product, which we are saying right here, we can say post category name, like that. Okay, and if I refresh, great, so you can see we have news. And the title, we don't want the title to be static. We're just gonna say post title right there. So that's gonna be the post title. If I refresh, great. And now we need the user who created that post. So I'm just gonna copy or cut this out and then make sure that we have the post user, which we do not have. So let's fix that real quick. Okay, so we need to know the user that created the post. So let's come to the create post table, and right here we're gonna add a table integer, and this is going to be user ID. Okay, and then we are going to go to the post model and we'll define a relationship called user. Okay, and a post belongs to a user, right? And a user can have many posts. It's just like the category and the post. So we're gonna say return this belongs to the user class. And then what we're gonna do next is we make sure that in our fillable property we have user underscore ID. Okay, and then when we go to the post controller, when creating a post, so that's the post controller for the administrator end, when creating a post right here, we are going to add the user ID. So user ID, and this is going to be the authenticated user's ID. That's the user who created this post. Finally, let's go to our database seeder, and we are going to modify the post table seeder so that we have a user who created the post. So what we want to do here is create, maybe one author. So author one is going to be user create, and we'll pass in the details of the user. We can use name, John Doe, email is going to be john@doe.com, and then the password is going to be a password that we're going to hash. So hash make password. Okay, that's the first author we're going to have. And then let's create a second author. Author 2 is going to be Jane Doe, and this is going to be jane@doe.com and hash make password. But we need to use the hash class. So use illuminate support facades /hash. Okay, so that's the hash facade right there. Awesome. So now we need to make sure that we pass in the user ID right here for the author. So author 1 ID, and I'm just going to use this opportunity to teach you something really fast. I'm going to go to the user model and I'll define a relationship with the post. So public function post, and what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say return this has many post class, because a user can have many posts, right? Now what's going to happen is in my post table seeder, what I'm going to do is instead of saying post create, I'm going to show you another fun way of creating a post. So right here, since we have author 2, we can say author 2, and then we'll call the relationship, which is post, and then we're going to call a create method like that. And in this case, we no longer need to pass the user ID because we are calling author 2, and then we're calling the relationship, and then we're calling a create method. How cool is that? Okay, so we can do exactly the same thing right here. So we can say author 1, and then the post relationship, and then we call the create method directly. Okay, which means that author 1 is creating this post. And let's do exactly the same thing so that we don't have to pass the user ID. And actually with the category, we can also do the same thing. So we could be like category 1, then posts, since we have post for category, and then we can call create. And in that case, we don't need to pass the category ID right here. Okay, but let's just stick to author. So author 1 or author 2 is going to create this post like that. And I think that's it. So let's go ahead and refresh our database so that our user ID is going to be added to our post table, and then we're going to run our seeds so that we have new seed data. So add migrate refresh seed, and that's it. So look at how easy it is when we have a seed file. It just makes things very easy. So I'm going to go back to the home page and check this out. If we click on this, we have this blog post. If we go back to the show.blade.php, we can now print out post user name, which is the name of the user who wrote this blog post. And great, we have John Doe right there. just like magic. And since we have our gravatar, we are going to display the gravatar of the user who wrote this blog post. So we're going to say gravatar make, and I think that's the name of that method, or gravatar source actually, and then we'll pass in asset, and we'll pass in the post image right there. Okay, so if we refresh, yeah, we have the gravatar of the user. So in case it was my account, you're gonna see my gravatar right there. Okay, so the next thing is the contents of the blog post and the tags. So let's go ahead, and in the main section right here, this is a lot of content. What we want to do is delete all of this static HTML, and we're gonna have HTML for the content. So all of these rows are gonna go away. I'm just gonna delete all of this. If I refresh right now, yeah, you can see we have just this section. Oh, I think we shouldn't have gotten rid of the tags. Just a second. So get rid of this. That's okay. And then get rid of this. But we want to leave the tags, which is right here. Okay, so I'll delete this. Okay, so we can leave that row for the tags, and then I'll delete this one for the contents. If I refresh, great, you can see our tags right there. Awesome. So now right here, I'm gonna have to print out the contents. So I'm just gonna say post content. If I refresh, you can see we have just text right here, and it looks fine because it's text. But let me show you something. I'm gonna log in to my account, badcoder@gmail.com, password, login. Then I'm gonna come to post, and this post we're working with, I'm just gonna edit it, and I'm gonna get some lipsum text from lorem ipsum. I'll copy all of this, and then I'll paste it in the content section like that. Okay, and I'm gonna save it. Now that that's saved, if I go back to the front end of the application and click on this blog post, if you look at the content, it contains HTML, and that's because we are using a WYSIWYG editor, right? So what we want to do is, instead of using this syntax, we're going to use this syntax instead. And what Laravel Blade is going to do is, it's going to ignore all of the HTML tags, and it's actually going to render it as HTML. So remember, we want to render HTML, so we use the double exclamation marks instead. So look at that. That's it. We have our blog post displayed. What we want to do right now is loop through all of the tags for this blog post and display them right here. Okay. So I'm just going to delete all except one, and then have a for each loop, for each of the tags as tag, and for each. And this is not going to be tags, right? This is going to be post tags because there's the tags for the post. And if I refresh right now, you can see we have record. So why does this post have the same tag? Let's just go and edit it right now. Okay, so I'm just going to say home, visit the home page. And what I want to do is right here for post, edit the first one, and want to scroll down. And why does it say customers and jobs? Oh yeah, right. Oh yeah, we are supposed to print out post the tag name, right? So we're just gonna say tag name right here. Awesome. Okay, so let's go back to the home, visit this one, and you can see we have the job and customers tags right there. And then for the comments section right here, I'm gonna delete the static comments that we have, which is in this media list. I'm just going to delete it, and then I'm also going to delete this form, and we're going to put in professional comments using discuss. Okay, so right now there's no comments, but we're going to visit discuss website right here. So what we want to do is come to the discuss website. This is it. Make sure you create an account. Okay, this is like a really cool service for having comments in your website. So what we want to do is get started and select I want to install discuss on my site. Okay, and it's going to ask you for a new website. So here the website name is SaaS blog, and select the category. I'm just going to select business, create site, and it's going to give me the instructions. So you can totally skip the plan. They have a free plan. And the next thing you want to go to is the installation. And what you want to select is the universal code right down here. Okay, so this is the code we need to be able to install Disqus. I'll just copy this code. Let me just copy it, and we're going to have a look at it from my code editor. So I'll come here and I'll just paste it for now. So we're going to edit this. Okay, so first let's look at what we have. We have div of ID Disqus thread. This is where the thread is going to be loaded, and then this is the script or the JavaScript that loads Disqus. Okay, so what we're going to do is remove out this comment right here, and you can see page URL is supposed to be the page canonical URL. So this is going to be the post ID. So this is going to be like blog slash post ID, then slash, or blog slash post, then slash post ID. It's kind of the unique URL to the comments for this page, right? So that in case the user is viewing this page, he can view all the comments for this page. And then the identifier is going to be the post ID. So we're just going to say print out post ID right here. And don't worry, we're going to load the file, and then you're going to see the use of all of these changes. Okay, so that's it. That's all the configuration we need. Now, if we go back to the blog, refresh, scroll down to the bottom, yeah, we have an error. We're going to check that out. But what I want to show you is the source code. So if you check right here, you can see we have blog post 1, and then we have the unique identifier. So now let's look into why this is not loading correctly. The reason is because this is actually expecting a full URL to our application. So let me show you what we're going to do. We can go ahead to our .env file, which is right here, and define a URL. In this case, mine is cms.ping. Okay, so if yours is localhost 8000, that's what you want to put there. And then here, I'm going to print out the URL. So I'm going to say config, and this is going to be app.url. So the config function is a function in Laravel that helps us get values from configuration files. So you can see the config app right here. If you check out at the top, we have a URL field right here. Okay, so this is config, then the app file, then the URL config value. And this is going to get the app URL from the environment, which I just edited. So my .env now gives me this value. So if we come back, refresh this page, you can see that we have this. And let's see if that fixes the comments. If I refresh, scroll down, great. So you can see we have comments working perfectly in application. Okay, so a user can comment, post, and you can see the comments right there. If I come back to my application, to the home page, select a different blog post, check this out, and then you can see that these are fresh new comments only for this blog post. And that's because, as you can check, the post URL right here is always going to be unique. If we are viewing post 2, then you can see that the post URL is always going to be unique right there. Okay, awesome. So looks like we're actually done with this page, right? We have the commenting system, we have the tags, we have the content of the page. And one annoying thing I want to fix is just the fact that this link doesn't go back to the home page. So I'm just going to go to the layout file, which is blog.blade.php, and then I'll scroll up and make sure that this goes to our route welcome like this. So here we can create a route called welcome. Okay, and then go to the web.php and make sure that this route is called welcome. So name of welcome. Awesome. So if I refresh this page right now, click on this, it takes me back home. Great. So it looks like our blog is coming into shape. The next thing we want to talk about is stuff like pagination that we're going to see in the next lesson. Thank you so much, and see you then.